Ever wondered how our financial system could collapse overnight? What role do banks play in such crises? These are not just rhetorical questions for a late-night philosophical debate, but rather, they are pressing matters that impact our daily lives, our economy, and our future. The stability of our financial system is not as rock-solid as it might appear. Banks, often seen as the pillars of this system, can sometimes be the catalysts of its downfall. Today we delve into this complex world of finance and banking, exploring the events leading up to bank collapses. It all starts with a seemingly stable economy, just like it was back in 2007. Picture it, a bustling market, banks and financial institutions standing tall, their coffers brimming. On the surface, it was a time of prosperity. Businesses were thriving, investors were grinning ear to ear, and the common man was content, basking in the illusion of a robust economy. But beneath this shiny veneer, the undercurrents were of a different nature. The economic machine was being pushed to its limits, fueled by reckless lending and speculative investments. Financial institutions were playing a dangerous game, betting on assets that were overvalued and volatile. It was a bubble waiting to burst, and the signs were there for those who cared to look. And then there were the banks. Supposed guardians of the economy, they were instead contributing to its downfall. They were lending money they didn't have to people who couldn't afford to pay it back. In their quest for quick profits, they were ignoring the basics of prudent banking. It was a house of cards, and it was only a matter of time before it collapsed. Policies that were meant to regulate the financial sector were being flouted with impunity. The watchdogs were asleep at the wheel, and the players were having a field day. Gold, the age-old bastion of wealth, was being ignored. The glitter of fast money had blinded investors to its steady, reliable glow. Little did they know that this oversight would come back to haunt them. Meanwhile, the common man was oblivious to all this. He was caught up in the euphoria of the boom, unaware that a storm was brewing. He was living on borrowed time and borrowed money, unaware of the impending doom. But as we've seen before, appearances can be deceptive. The stability was a mirage, and the real picture was far from rosy. Once the first domino falls, a chain reaction ensues. Let's take a moment to consider what this means in the context of the global banking system. When the first bank collapse occurred, it was like a domino being knocked over. This singular event set off a series of reactions that rippled throughout the financial world. Picture a row of dominoes. Each domino represents a bank. The first domino, the bank that failed initially, was pushed over by a combination of factors: unsustainable lending practices, inadequate reserves, and perhaps most importantly, a loss of confidence from its investors and customers. As this first domino toppled, it knocked into the next, setting off a cascade of falling dominoes, or in our case, failing banks. Each bank, interconnected in the global financial web, was vulnerable to the shockwaves emanating from the initial collapse. These shockwaves were not just limited to the banking industry. They spread throughout the wider economy. Businesses couldn't secure loans, people lost their jobs, and investors saw their portfolios shrink overnight. The domino effect was in full swing, wreaking havoc on a scale that few could have predicted. You see, in a system as interconnected as global finance, the failure of one component can lead to the downfall of many others. It's a precarious balance, and when it's disrupted, the results can be catastrophic. Think back to the dominoes. Once the chain reaction starts, it's incredibly difficult to stop. Each falling domino fuels the momentum of the next. In the financial world, this translates to a cycle of failing confidence, plummeting share prices, and ultimately, bank collapses. It's a sobering reminder of the fragility of our financial system and the potential for a single event to trigger a cascade of failures. But remember, understanding this domino effect is the first step towards protecting ourselves from future crises. This domino effect sent shockwaves through the financial system, leading to widespread bank collapses. In the aftermath of the crisis, the landscape of banking and finance was forever changed. The tremors of the bank collapses were felt far and wide, echoing through the corridors of the economy, whispering uncertainty into the ears of businesses and unsettling the lives of individuals. It was a period of upheaval, a time of reckoning, a moment of truth for the financial world. The dominoes had fallen, and the ripples spread outwards, touching every corner of the economy. Businesses, large and small, felt the crunch. The once steady flow of capital had dried up, turning thriving enterprises into barren wastelands of unfulfilled dreams and broken promises. The ordinary individual bore the brunt of this crisis as jobs were lost, homes were foreclosed, and a sense of financial security became a distant memory. But as with every crisis, there came change, and with change, hope. The aftermath of the bank collapses saw a transformation in banking regulations and practices. The regulatory bodies, once complacent, now woke up to the harsh realities of the banking world. They implemented stringent measures to ensure that such a catastrophe would not repeat itself. Banks were now required to maintain higher capital reserves, lending practices were tightened, and transparency became the order of the day. The crisis also led to a shift in the mindset of the banks. No longer could they gamble with the money of their depositors with impunity. They had to rethink their strategies, refocus their goals, and realign their practices to the new reality. This was a time of introspection and transformation for the banking industry. However, the aftermath was not just about regulations and practices. It was about a shift in perception. The crisis had shattered the illusion of the invincibility of the banking industry. It showed the world that banks, like any other institution, were vulnerable to crises, and that they needed to be held accountable for their actions. The crisis served as a wake-up call, leading to significant changes in the banking industry and financial regulations. It was a harsh lesson, but a necessary one. It was a reminder that in the world of finance, vigilance is the price of stability. So, what have we learned from this exploration of bank collapses and financial crises? In the course of our journey, we've delved deep into the heart of the financial system, unearthing the pivotal role banks play in both the creation and resolution of financial crises. We've seen how their actions, driven by a complex mix of economic conditions, regulatory measures, and human behavior, can set in motion a chain of events leading to a financial meltdown. We started by exploring the genesis of a crisis, how a system designed for stability can falter, and the pivotal role banks play in this process. The interconnected nature of the financial system means that a setback in one corner can reverberate throughout the entire system, leading to the domino effect we discussed. A single bank's collapse can trigger a cascade, causing a systemic crisis that brings the entire financial sector to its knees. We then ventured into the aftermath of such crises, the financial wastelands that are left in their wake. We saw the impact on economies, both domestic and international, and the long road to recovery that follows. The financial landscape is forever changed, with new regulations, new safeguards, and a new sense of caution pervading the industry. Moreover, we've underscored the importance of vigilance and understanding in navigating these turbulent financial waters. The world of finance is a complex beast, its inner workings often shrouded in jargon and complexity. But as we've seen, understanding these intricacies isn't just for economists and financial experts, it's crucial for anyone looking to safeguard their financial future. Which brings us to the role of assets, like gold, in providing a buffer against these financial storms. As we saw, gold is often viewed as an insurance policy against economic instability. While its value can fluctuate, it remains a constant in a world of financial uncertainty, a beacon for those looking for stability in unstable times. The world of finance is a complex web. Understanding its intricacies can help us navigate future crises and hopefully prevent them.